Hi, this is Mary Jo Ryder.
Hey, Mike here. What's up, Mary Jo?
Well, we have guests.
We've got guests. They're sitting across the table from us. This is so cool. Hey, y'all. We got some fun people here today. We're going back into talking about being debt-free and doing it God's way. We've got our friends Derek and Kaylee here, and we're going to chit-chat about this a little bit. Say hello to everybody, dude.
Hello.
Everybody. Say hi, sweetheart.
Hey.
Hey. All right. They're all here.
Glad to be
We're
here.
all here. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
it's
coming
going to
out.
be fun.
It's going to be fun. We were just sitting here talking, and we're like, man, we should have had a record button going. We could just sit here and record for hours and get like 10 podcasts, and they'd all be amazing. So, yeah, it's all good. But, we were just talking about your guys' story. One of the reasons why we wanted to have you come out is because coming into where you guys are at right now, I know you and I, Derek, have had conversations about debt-free and just sound, wise financial management, and especially in times like now.
Yep. That's
So-
what brought on the conversation,
Yeah.
essentially. Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. So if you wouldn't mind, both of you, and you just jump in whenever you want to, and just kind of share your story and tell us where you came from, money-wise, church-wise, and stuff like that, and where you're headed.
Okay.
Ready, go.
Yeah, I guess just to kind of give it a preference, is we started the conversation in between services at church. Just kind of got to talking about where everything's at in the world and how a lot of businesses are not doing so well, and families or anything in general. So kind of got the money talk, and kind of led me to sharing a little bit of my story. So that's kind of where this comes from. So because to me, money and the finances part of life is something that I'm very passionate about, and I think it's something that obviously it affects everybody, and it's one of the things that when it affects you negatively, it's very hard, but also when it's positive, it's, so it's the very extreme, but it affects everybody.
Right.
So I don't know, it's just something that I've grown passionate about over a few years. So we'll backtrack a few years here. I guess we'll kind of start with growing up. For both of us, I would say, I'd speak for myself, was not a tither growing up. I went to church and all that, but didn't really know anything about finances in general. So growing up, it was kind of that story. And then when we started dating, I guess we'll kind of move forward a little quick here, but I spent money.
And I balanced the
and
checkbook.
she balanced my checkbook.
Dude, no, that
Because
sounds like
we
me.
dated pretty young. I was going into 9th grade, so that was kind of like real world was starting for me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Starting to get to the driving age and all that kind of thing. And she would balance my checkbook, and I'd be like, whatever, it's fine.
Like
I
whatever,
wouldn't think
right.
anything of it. And
That's
so
the
it
way
kind of
I
reminded
was.
me, like when you were giving yours. So I was like, okay, I'm not the only one here. Which I know I'm not, but. So that was kind of how the start of it. We went through life quite a few more years, and then we got married, and really still for a while we didn't budget or anything. I'm not even really sure what year it started. We kind of came across the Ramsey Protocol,
Sure.
Dave Ramsey. I don't know.
A lot
I think
of good
it started
stuff in there.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the premise of where we kind of built our foundation of knowing where to go with money and all that was we just based off that. It was something that we could apply that was very simple.
Sure.
So
How did you guys first get exposed to Ramsey?
Boy,
Do you recall that?
similar to this, podcasting was something that I listened to a lot of at the time. So I don't know if it was somebody. I'm honestly not even sure how we came across it. We just did. And it just struck a chord with me for some reason. And so we both, we would get to the point where we would lay in bed with the phone between our heads and we'd listen to the podcast for motivation. That's how weird we got with it. But
That's cool, though.
But that's where we got. And it was just, it kind of drove us to.
Well, then that shows both of you on the same page on that, too.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So it took me, the spender, and her, the saver, and all that. It kind of took and molded us together to work together, which is the key.
Right.
That's if you're on opposite ends, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And it gave you guys the balance that you needed, too. You know, it's
Yep.
like with Mary Jo and I'm kind of like you, and she's kind of like Kaylee.
Right.
And I think I mentioned it in our podcast about it where I shared my testimony, but I married into very sound financial management. I
Right.
really did. And I believe that's part of God bringing me out. You know what I mean? Because now we're out together, and that's the best place to be,
That's good.
is out together.
So yeah, he
Yeah.
has his baby steps. So essentially, that's what we followed.
Okay.
We got to the point where we paid off all of our debt minus our house.
Okay.
We had a cute little house. We liked it. We had planned within 3 to 5 years to pay it off. That was our goal, and we were hitting it hard.
Yeah.
So we were working on that. We did all that. Kind of fast forward a little bit through that, and that's when, let's see, what would be April 2015 is when she had first gone to Faith Family for the first
Right.
time, which then led me to there. And that's kind of where things started to take off in a different direction.
Yeah. And how hard did you bite on that hook? What did you tell me about that? You were like, the first time you were there, it's like, this is where we're going, man.
Oh, yeah. It was
Set your face like flint.
the first time she
pretty
went, I remember her calling, and I mean, she can.
Yeah, I was like, you're going to come here with me. He's like, I don't even drive down the road to go to church, so I'm not driving 90 miles each way to go to church.
Yeah, it was just
Because
this
you guys still
idea.
lived in Wyndham.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we were
That's awesome.
90 miles from here, or
Right.
from,
Yeah.
from the church essentially. And so the idea was just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of
And
alien.
so, yeah. So basically just, I went, and that's where like a big part of the story kind of starts, I guess. So we, what we had prior to this, well, I guess I'll kind of back up a little bit. So we started coming to church, learning, under pastors, many things, obviously. I
Right.
mean, for me, it was a very drastic change.
Yeah.
But learning about the tithe and learning about, abundance and things like that was just something that I didn't really think about. I guess I didn't really,
Sure.
didn't know it was a part of going to church and learning it through the word and all
Right.
that. So, so once we kind of took a grasp on that, I was on fire with everything. And so when I learned about the tithe, I said, well, whether or not this is something, I was just like how passionate I was, like whether or not this is something that you're going to agree on, I said, we have to start tithing. Like this is, like I was just like, let's do this. And so we talked about it, we agreed on it. And so we started doing that. I don't know, I'd say June or July of that year.
Sure.
And then come August.
Yeah, it was late August, and we were in the debate of how are we going to continue going to church through winter, and we got 2 little girls, and like,
Right.
is it going to be, what's going to happen to us if we don't have what we're getting right now and filling us up each week? And so
Right.
we kind of talked about selling our house and what we'd do. And like with tithing, we just had this idea that no matter what number we put out, we were going to get for our house.
Right.
And so
Yeah. You guys' house selling story is amazing.
yeah, so we had bought the house for a number, and we were like, we've done a lot. I mean, not a ton, but like it looks a lot better than it did.
Uh-huh.
And we both had this number in our head, and we're like, well, that's what we're going to tell the realtor. And she was like, okay. I mean, we're like, well, we're not in a hurry to sell. If it doesn't sell right away, that's fine. We listed it. We were actually on a vacation, and we had multiple offers and ended up selling our house while we were on vacation. It was 1 week on the market for the number we were asking, no inspection, quick sale.
Wow.
That's just, and it was
Yeah, we were faxing the
probably
paperwork
like
while on vacation. I'm like, what
from the
is-
hotel.
What are we doing? Like, what is happening? Because everything happens so fast. This is from
Yeah,
April
right.
to August, right around there.
Right.
And to
right.
give you an idea of like that number, it was like the number she gave us to the number we had in our mind was about 15,000 difference.
Okay.
Wow.
And we got our number, and she was just like, I don't understand.
She's
but
flabbergasted.
Yeah, she was
and we're like,
blown away
Right.
by it.
oh,
Yeah.
let me tell you about that.
Yeah, so we ended up selling
Right.
it based on the number that came to both of us, and because I
Right.
was like, what do you got? And we're both like, that's exactly what I thought. Like it was just boom, instant. And so we took away a good chunk from that. So moving here was no stress. We had zero debt at the time. No, our cars were paid off, everything, no
Right.
student loans, nothing. So like coming here, if we didn't have that foundation to, pick up and go, I think that would have changed the situation altogether.
Sure.
We would have got into probably a little bit more fear of finances and all that. Where we came in, we were just like, we're good. Like we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where things went a little south, I guess you could say, is we stopped doing what we knew to do. We got here and it was a whole new way of life. Wyndham, 5,000 people or so.
Yeah.
When you come here, it's quite a drastic change. And so we just kind of like changed what we were doing, I guess. We stopped doing what we knew to do. So we weren't really budgeting.
That we got to is we weren't really budgeting. We were living off of the sale of our house.
Oh, sure.
And then we sort of got like this in this mode where we were like comfortable, where we're like, oh, God's just going to handle everything and it's going to be handed to us like on a silver platter.
Sure.
And obviously that's not how it works. Like you have to take steps in the direction that you want to go. And we weren't doing the action steps to get to the next step.
Yeah. So. I wasn't working and we were trying to build business from home, which was where I kind of feel like it was, I don't know if I'd call it blind faith, but it was just like, I didn't really understand it. So I'm just like, oh, well, this is just going to work. God's got this, and, right heart, I think it's just, but the action wasn't there. I wasn't putting forth any effort hardly at all, which drags her down. And, it just wasn't a team effort at that point either. So just kind of went backwards and just basically lived off of that to the point where, okay, now we've got ourselves in this hole here. Like we've got to figure this out. So that's when, I just revamped everything that we were doing, and I went up and got a job. And so, so I guess the reason I tell this is we've been in a spot where we're completely debt free. We had zero worries whatsoever financially. And then somehow we just let ourselves get to a point where, what did we do? Like what happened, and it happened so fast because you can get careless with your spending and you're just, you upgrade your lifestyle because you see this big number in the bank, which, I mean, for most people our age to have what we had is pretty unheard of unless it's been handed to them or something.
Like an inheritance type of thing.
It takes a lot of work to get to that point, which we were doing. So, so we, kind of had to restart from that. So it's a bit hard to even think about sometimes because it's hard, it's tough. But at the same time, like, someone else might be in the position where we were or where we started or, whatever it is. And they can, maybe look at what our testimony of that or our story of it and not do what we did. Or, we talk about being debt free. Like that's something that I've experienced on a pretty high side, or we have, I should say. And to be where we are now, which is much different than, so we're definitely on the higher end of it now. We're getting back on the right track and everything. But it's pretty eye opening to go from one side to the other. So.
Are you guys ready for the $1 million question?
Sure.
Dee's looking at me.
Me
Kaylee's
too.
like,
I'm like,
bring
what
it
is
on.
it?
If you guys had one thing that you could tell our listeners, one thing that you would say, set your face like flint and do this and give your reason.
Ooh. That's a good question.
That's a good one. Well, it was kind of like what I said in my testimony. I said I did not give a rip if I had $1.50 left. If the offering plate came by, it was going in there. Just the extra offering, just the extra seed planting is what I did. And that's been a pattern that's, Mary Jo will tell you, it's like, I won't do it, but there are times when I feel like I could just take and clean out the checking account. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you get you're just inspired to want to just give. And I could just say, okay, how much we got in there? Boom, write a check, throw it in. Do you know what I mean? Yep. We haven't done it. God says to do it, we'll do it. But, there will be agreement in the house on it. But so that was one thing I purposed, that I was always going to have something to give. So if you guys had one piece of advice.
Does it have to be about money?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
I do have one. We had a guest speaker at church, and I can't remember who it was, but he gave the analogy of faith is like checkers. And you always somebody has to make a move. And so that's kind of what I took in is, if you're praying on something and you're believing for something and nothing seems to be changing, that God may have already opened the door, but you have to make the next move. So
Sure.
not getting like stagnant in thinking that some grand gesture is going to be there for you, but just keep making, even if it's the small steps towards something.
Right.
Because so many times it gets so easy to get comfortable. And if you're not making any steps towards anything, whether it's small or big, you're just never going to get there. So just taking action steps.
That kind of goes along with what Derek was saying when you guys moved here. You're not really doing anything. You're just living off the bank, right? What you got in the bank.
Yeah.
And not making motion going forward.
Yep.
So yeah, that fits perfectly.
And that was where
with whatever. You're
we
right.
like kind of parted, where I was like, you should be going out there. Like, this is what I'm doing, but it's not really your passion. So you need to find something.
Yep.
And it did take an elder in church to tell him, like, you need to go out and get a job. Like, this isn't what God is calling you to do.
Yeah, that was interesting. I don't even remember. I think it might have been Ivan Tate was here, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But, yeah, I was approached and basically told, like, you know, I think you need to get a job. Like, I feel like God's telling me this. And he's like, I'm not sure why, but, you know, I just don't think you're, basically something to that extent. And I'm like, whoa, like,
Kind of
this
took you
dude?
by surprise.
Right.
What? You know, and so I
Like,
took
what?
it off a little hard a little bit, but then I kind of sat there, you know, after a while, I kind of chewed on it at home and like, man, like I've kind of feel like I've put myself in this spot where that's my only option, and I should have seen that a long time ago, you know? And so it was, again, it was a teaching for me, because I was like, how could somebody even know this without
Sure.
even knowing the situation to the extent that it is, you know?
Sure.
And so again, to this day, I'll remember that, because it's just like, wow, like that was like a profound moment in my life where like somebody
Heard
felt
from God.
through the Spirit that this is what needs to happen.
Right,
So that was like,
right,
again,
yeah,
this is me
yeah.
still pretty green. So to hear that is like, wow, like there's more to this than I even know, you know? So that was cool. But at the time it wasn't cool, because I was like, at least it didn't feel cool.
But here's the thing about it, though, is that you were receptive and your heart was soft. So once you finally processed, you got past that initial reaction,
Yep.
you were just kind of like, you know, yeah, but you were open to it. If you wouldn't have been open to it, you'd have set your face like flint and went the other way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd the same way.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I took the first thing, and that was just it. So going back to the analogy she gave with checkers, like I took the next step that I knew, and I put an application out. I'm like, I don't know where to go, what to do, but I'm going to do this. This is what I know. So I actually put in for just a part-time overnight stocking position just to get my foot in the door at the store. And that's kind of where things took off from there.
yeah, and where's God brought you?
Well, and now where I'm at now is just like, wow. Because I went through a time where I went from part-time to full-time.
And that's
But
a
the hours-
testimony in and of itself, because
Ready to go.
he decided he was going to put in for this full-time position. He got the job, and a week later we found out we were expecting our third. If we wouldn't have had a full-time job and insurance, we would have been paying through our teeth
Right.
for the birth of our third
Right.
kid. So
with
because we didn't have very
nothing
good
to,
insurance.
Right.
So
you know,
it was like that little,
Yeah, and you
So would you consider that one of the blessings of being tithers?
oh yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say for sure. Well, yeah, I would say there's no doubt about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So to
Yeah.
go from, so going from part-time to full-time, in the timing of that was incredible. And then, you know, I went through the season of the hours and the days that I worked were very up and down, kind of everywhere. And then just kind of moving forward, like I knew there was a position in the store that I wanted. And I was just kind of waiting out to see, you know, if it was possibly going to open up. Well, he ended up getting a new position at another store and moving up. So I said, hey, put in a good word for me, you know, just like, I want this position. So when he left, they didn't even post the position. I just went up right away and I said, hey, like he's leaving and I'm very interested in this. Like, I'm just telling you now, I'm going to apply for it when it happens. He's like, yep, just wait for it to open up. Never opened up. And then I checked the schedule the one day, and my name is in his hours. I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. Everyone's like, what's going on? Why are you scheduled for his hours? And I'm like, honestly, I just said that
No
I'm
idea.
interested. That's all you know.
Yeah.
I just put that out there.
Right.
I took the next step that I knew again, and I
Right.
said, hey, this is what I was believing for. This is what, you know.
Absolutely.
And so that happened there. And so now my schedule is regular. You know, my days are always pretty much the same. My hours, I'm off by 5, so I'm home with the family. I'm able to, you know,
Like
have a
the-
structured life to an extent. And
The only position in the store that has a set schedule with every Sunday off, so he can still go to church.
yeah, and that was my thing. So when I started, that was my first thing was like, I'm off on Sundays.
Right.
And so it ended up being that I was off on Sunday mornings.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, I took that as, well, that works. I can go to church. And I didn't really like the idea of working on Sunday still, but I took it as, well, I can go to church. So that was like my stipulation from the start.
Right.
And then that stayed pretty consistent through those hours. But now that's like my one guaranteed day off is that. And then, so yeah, that in and of itself is just like
Favor.
pretty amazing.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
And if you look at the store as a whole, like where I'm at and comparing to other places, like, yeah, you might get paid more in other positions and whatever,
Sure.
but
Sure.
I enjoy what I'm doing when I'm there, and my hours and the time, you know, all that, it fits very well for
fits.
what we're doing, you know,
That's
and our
awesome.
lifestyle for right now. So
Right.
yeah, that in and of itself is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's
Really good.
awesome. That's powerful. Powerful.
So
So yeah. Well, thanks for coming in, guys. This has been great. I'm sure our listeners are going to get a lot out of this. And I think we're going to have you guys back again probably real soon, probably like next time. So it's been a lot of fun. So anyway, thanks for listening. Give us some shouts, man. Let us know what you're thinking of these. We want to be really helpful in helping you guys. So let us know what we can do.
make some comments, ask some questions.
Yes, please do. And
Enjoy
we
your
will
input.
see you next time around.
Thanks a lot.